We're going live. We're live, and we may be sort of jerky-worky, because once again, rain and the internet is horrible. But welcome everybody to another Egg Pod. It's Monday night, and we're here to talk about the state of the game. And with us, we have Jimmy the Hand, Callum from Cape Town. How are you, man?
Good as well.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us. I feel like I've got this horrible shadow over my face, and I do, but I've hopefully fixed that now. It's not that bad. Okay, cool. Fantastic. I see we have some people in chat already. I don't know exactly how many people in chat because I don't have the Twitch stream in front of me, because otherwise there's echo. But I can see Kamikaze Badger, Lemore, hello. I never get to say your name the whole way through because I just don't want to cock up the French, because that would be bad. I see Six Flags, Magic Mountain, and the True Shacks. So welcome to everybody in chat. I see Lamore has already told us, untap, upkeep, island, go. And I'm going to say, no, you're banned. That was a joke. But okay. I see Leopard Stone in there. And of course, Reaction 172, who is Jimmy the Hand. So he's being very sneaky and sitting in chat at the same time. Just make sure the volume's down on the Twitch thing, otherwise we get the echo. I also see that we have a follower, Cyan Rogue. I'm not sure if you're out there or if you're listening, but thank you for the follow. We do appreciate it. And before we get started, we have to do the thing we do all the time. But this time, I got something different for our patrons. Our patrons, because we now have quite a few right now, which we're very, very thrilled about, it's very difficult for me to remember everybody's name all in one go. So I did this. And tell me what you think. So here we are again, back on the live screen. So I hope you guys liked that. That was kind of cute. But we're here to talk about some very specific stuff. We have some things going on at the moment in the world of Magic. We've just had the 2 new sets drop from Innistrad. We've had Midnight Hunt, which started rotation in Standard, which was a good thing. And I think just in time before everybody kind of just threw every Eldraine card they had at everybody else just because they were tired of it. And we've just had Crimson Vow official release this last weekend. So before we get into all of that, Callum, why are we listening to you? Why did we have you on the show? Let's have a little bit of your magical history. Tell us about your magic background, my friend. How do you get into this cardboard crack?
Oh, thank long hair. So when I was at school, early years, maybe 10 years old, a little bit older, I saw some people playing it in the schoolyard, asked to join in, asked to see what they're doing. That was around 4th edition, and Arabian Nights, Mirage kind of time. Played a bit then, but like completely as kids, game's completely different to what it was then. Then came back to play it in high school around Urza's Saga, Urza's Block.
Nice.
Then started playing competitively in Shards of Alara, Morningtide Lorwyn, around then. Did a couple of the nationals in Joburg. Traveling for Magic was fun, it's cool. Traveling with friends. As you guys just had that EGG thing. Well,
sure.
I know that feels. It's good fun. And then quick for quite a while I was a pilot, and then when I came back to South Africa, I picked it up again, and that was Eldraine, the mother of all sets.
the mother lode of all powered sets. Yeah, for sure.
Came back when Oko was legal instant.
Oh wow, okay, that was early days of, well, that was like the first day of Eldraine. The next day he was gone.
No, it was hilarious.
That's what it felt like anyway, I guess. But I mean, you've been playing Magic obviously for quite a while. You've got a good sense of where the game's going and what's going on with it. So that's kind of why, for everybody out there, that's why we asked Callum to come onto the show tonight to have a chat about it. He also was one of the guys who was instrumental in helping me out setting up the Pioneer gig for Comic-Con Cape Town a couple of months back. So that was a cool thing to do. And we will talk about that in just a moment. But just want to say, I got 2 of these. The last 2 to give away tonight. The only person I'm going to say who can't win is Lioness of the Vale or the other Klassen. Because to be perfectly honest, you two just win far too much. It's like unfair. You guys enter the raffle and one of you is going to win and then nobody else gets to win anything. So I'm putting that out there and just saying, That's how we're going to do it. But I think what we'll do now is we'll actually just start that and just go 1 times, because there's a couple of people in chat right now, and we'll go 1 times arena starter deck, courtesy, my brain's not working. Unplug Yourself, our amazing partners. You should go check them out at www.unplugyourself.co.za for all of your tabletop gaming goodness. They have so many cool things that you need to check out. So anyways, there's a giveaway to open. Those of you in chat, you know what to do. In the meantime, Callum, let's talk about what's just happened. Oh, before that, what's your preferred format and why?
Is the stream working? Just want to check.
It should be. It's very slow.
No, I mean, like, it's still saying starting soon and nothing's on.
That's weird, because we are live. We have got the peoples. Let's have a look, see. Mute that. No, we're live. It's happening. It's just very slow. Because the internet is useless.
Okay, cool. Sorry, what were you asking?
I was asking if you had a favorite format, and if you did, what was that format?
At the moment, it's completely varied. I go back from format to format. I actually don't have a specific favorite format at the moment. I wish I could give you more, and it's like a horrible answer, I know.
No, but it's fine.
Very much like I find pet decks in a format, and then I enjoy that for a week or so, and then like I play something different all the time.
But hold on, I mean, we were speaking off air, and you said to me that right now, in your opinion, the 3 major formats, Standard, Modern, Pioneer, are in a good place. Which
They're
means
in the best place ever, which is amazing. It's a brewer's paradise.
So there you go. So
whatever
I think,
you want.
So I think that kind of answers the question then, is that it's not that you have a particular format that's your favorite right now. You're just very happy with where Magic is right now. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that we've just had these 2 new sets drop. We've had rotation happen on Midnight Hunt, which brought back werewolves and some really cool mechanics. I personally enjoy the new day-night mechanic. I think it's really cool. It's fun to play around. I think the Celestis is one of my absolute favorite cards for a very long time. And an incredibly powerful card too for 3-drop mana rock, life gain rock, card draw rock, control the day-night cycle rock. I mean, what the hell?
And put stuff into your yard.
Exactly.
Rock, which is very relevant right now.
For sure. Okay, so let's, and then of course this weekend was the official release of Crimson Vow, which is the second Innistrad set that's been dropped. And so we are well into rotation. Things are happening. Let's talk about the state of the game. Let's talk about Standard. Where are we in Standard right now? Are you happy with Standard? And what are your predictions for the meta at the moment?
Standard's in probably the most healthy place it's been in 4 years, actually. Very much so. It was stuck in a little bit of an epiphany rock and a hard place pre-set, but it shows that all it needed was a few little things in mono green and in white that allowed those decks to get up and basically smash the Izzet decks, giving the Izzet decks not as good of a meta performance. Obviously, they're still good against mid-range and stuff like that, but the power level of the more aggro decks got raised just enough that it's evened out the playing field throughout, which means obviously that then less people play Izzet and then broadens the format in other ways.
Sure.
It's very much in a rock paper scissors situation where you had aggro decks that beat control that beats the mid-range deck, and the mid-range decks that beat the aggro deck, which is what you want Magic to be. The Izzet decks have turned into sort of an Izzet Epiphany kind of style, which is interesting to see. And what's very cool to see as well is how the Celestis has enabled Celestis and Leah have enabled themselves in a very cool way. Celestis obviously filling the yard with Consider as well, and then Leah using that yard to cast all the spells.
Absolutely. That's actually a combo I hadn't thought of.
That's the power of the Celestis at the moment. There's a very big power of Celestis at the moment is with Leah. So you want to be filling your yard up because you get to discard not just off the top, like consider, but like choose what you get to discard.
Yeah. No, that's very, very cool.
Yeah. So Izzet decks have turned into that kind of thing, and with the new card, talking about new cards that have come out, the Hullbreaker Horror.
What is with this
an
card?
incredible card, and is proving funny that they printed it in the one set where the answer is actually quite prevalent.
Yes.
With regard to control decks, now we make a lot of use of Divide by Zero,
Yeah.
which is the one card that can actually delay it, if not stop it.
Sure.
But out of that, Uncounterable Flash, huge creature.
Well,
Then
yeah, I mean, it's and
once
even
it lands, basically stops the whole game.
when you look at it the first time, you kind of think 7 mana value, that's a bit high. How are you going to get there? But the way things are running at the moment, to be able to cast a card is really not that big a deal. So that and just for what it does, the fact that once it's on the board, Flash uncounterable on the board, and every time you play a spell, you bounce something. I mean, it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's a nuts card.
Yeah. So I'm having a lot of fun with that card in Standard. I'm having a lot of fun with it in Pioneer, and I'm having a lot of fun with it in Modern. And I'll talk about those when we talk about Pioneer and Modern later.
Cool.
So moving on with Standard, the mono green lists
Yep.
have become very cool. The addition of the Ulvenwald monstrosity and a few others, a very powerful one drop.
You mean
well.
do you knew the new questing beast?
More than that card is very cool, and being able to activate it at instant speed.
Yeah.
The first time I did that, I was like, this is the kind of ability that you have to activate at sorcery. And then you can swing in and then activate it at instant speed and basically just win the game on the spot.
Sure, yeah.
Gives green this. It was already sort of a mid range, but it gives it this late game power.
Yeah.
Which is incredible to see. That along with having the early one drop that grows is also, green is looking very, very good.
Yeah.
And obviously white is, everyone predicted with the release and the showing of Talia.
Yep.
Everyone saw white was coming, and then they got like a few other pieces as well. So white's very strong. Then you have the black control decks, which I've been playing recently, which for me have had a lot of success. They're obviously very good against the creature heavy decks of green and more so white. And then since like Shambling Ghast is like the ultimate answer to all of white's creatures.
Yes. Shambling Ghast is a good card. But then so is Mtg
cool
Massacre. Mtg Massacre is a really good
Mtg
card to
Massacre,
have against
yeah.
white at the moment. Or against
But you can-
anything
you-
at the moment.
If you have the right curve on white, it's not a big deal because the Thalia sets it back 1, and
Yeah.
then the Redain comes down, and you just never get to play the card.
Yeah.
And then, as an answer to all of those, you've got the mid-range decks, which are still playing Ren and 7 and the Chariot combo, which will always be strong. And you get to add Magda and just Spirit Sentinel stuff in there with gold spans around. There's Jan Dragon decks, which I was talking to you about earlier.
Yeah, sure.
They are very cool. It's just Jan treasures and stuff. And then there's the emergence of Black-White Clerics, which has proved to be a very, very difficult deck to deal with, as
Okay.
removal often doesn't work.
But that's, are we talking clerics that are able to come back again? Now we're
I'm talking clerics that just keep coming back.
yeah,
They
because you've
don't
got what
stay dead.
you've got the little 2/1 menace lifelinker that can bring things back from the grave when you kick it. You've got
Yeah. The big one is
Aura.
The big one is Aura.
Yeah.
And then bringing itself back with the other triggers.
Sure,
right?
and then obviously Agadim's Awakening to be able to bring things back from the yard.
and tutoring them with the pyre.
Sure, wow,
It's,
yeah, that's actually quite something, huh?
It's a very strong anti-meta deck.
I just
as
wanted
it
to put
deals
my
with-
hand up and just say that I predicted clerics was going to be a thing in Kaldheim.
Well, definitely is.
Didn't happen then, but it looks like it might be happening now.
Oh, more than happening. It's there. It's incredibly strong.
Cool.
And it completely beats up on the creature decks because they don't have a way to deal with aura, and then they can't attack in
Sure.
because when they attack, the stuff doesn't die. It
Sure.
just comes back.
It's just let's quickly jump back to the Ren and 7 Seeker's Chariot thing. I played something the other day at Top Deck, and I was building the deck I spoke to you about earlier, the Rakdos Treasures thing that I was doing, and I was trying to find a sideboard answer to the potential of a Ren and 7 or of a Seeker's Chariot, or etc. etc. And the card that jumped out at me from the internet when I went searching and saying I need a sideboard answer for this because my deck's not my first game's not going to be about worrying about Ren and 7 or a Seeker's Chariot, but should it come out, I need something to be able to deal with it. Was Pithing Needle. And when I first saw Pithing Needle, I was like, geez, another one of these. And I must be honest with you, I've noticed that it does a lot of work from the sideboard lately. Are you seeing that at all?
So I haven't actually, I got to tell you the truth. I've been playing the Metagame Challenge.
Sure.
Speaking of standard, I've done it 6 times. I went 7 wins 3 times. All of them with black X control decks. I tried black blue, black white, and black green. Had decent success with all of them. And I didn't come across Ren and 7 Chariot once.
Nice.
So the decks that I ended up playing against a lot were, there was a lot of mono white, a lot of mono green, a lot of Izzet Epiphany. There was a fair amount of zombies, actually. I think
really
people want to try the new cards.
Sure.
The Headless Horseman or whatever it is a very cool card.
Nice card.
And there's quite a couple pieces in there that's very strong. And then I played quite a few of the Rakdos or Jund Dragon Treasure decks as well.
Okay.
That deck looks quite interesting, and Innistrad Predator right now is an incredible place to be. That card answers a lot and is answered by very little.
Sure. It's a very difficult card but it's always been a very difficult card to deal with, particularly for the fact that it can protect itself in that instant speed fashion.
There's not that much exile anymore. There was a fair amount, but there isn't anymore. And the exile that is going around is like Vanishing Verse and stuff.
Sure.
Which is obviously multicolored, being a problem.
Can't hit the Predator.
Can't hit the Predator. So Predator sits there and answers a lot, as well deals with these decks that are needing the graveyard. As they can sit there and just empty your opponent's graveyard with each turn. An interesting interaction that I've seen lately is on the defense, these Predators being used to crew defensively. So block, crew, gain the counter, exile something at instant speed. So you get to exile, when they try to Blood in the Snow and target something, then you can tap it to crew your thing, or tap it with the Jaspera Sentinel, give it the Indestructible, and exile whatever they're trying to bring back.
It's very clever.
There's interesting.
I just gotta address something in chat here real quick. I ain't shopping as yet. I'll be shopping later. The bandwidth thing has got nothing to do with the blue dot sale on Take-A-Lot, Badger. Thank you. I will tell you now that the internet is terrible here tonight. I'm getting 500 kilobytes per second is my upload. So it's not, I do apologize. I am recording the stream itself. We will put it out on YouTube later, unbroken and unhorribilized by whatever terribleness is happening due to the internet. But unfortunately, that's just what we're having to deal with tonight. So I'm sorry if it's a bit slow, if it's a bit broken, or if you're buffering up the wazoo, I do apologize. But in the meantime, let's jump back. Okay, so quick. So before we move on to the next format, Callum, in terms of standard cards to watch, what would you sort of pick out for people? Obviously, this is very dependent on your play style and what you want to play and what you like playing, etc. But just from a sort of high level point of view, if you were going to say these are the cards to look out for in standard right now, what would you say?
In standard wise, a nice way to gauge this is recently there was as I was talking about the standard metagame challenge, and I just want to take a moment here to chat about it as well, because I think it's important for people to know about this challenge. And it does take some time, but if you have time, this is by far the best way to flesh out your collection after a new set launches. They do it every time, 1 or 2 weeks after the new set. Every new set, they do a metagame challenge about 1 or 2 weeks after. If you can get yourself into a situation where you're comfortable with a deck and you play that, you will farm packs, you will farm gold, and you will flesh out your collection as much as you're willing to try as much as you're willing to play. It does take a bit of time, but if you can take a day out, you can do a couple of runs, and you'll farm yourself up a lot of packs and flesh
You
out your
can, I mean, you
collection
can
quite early
enter
on.
as many times as you have gold available, right?
It's only 2,000 gold to enter. You
Yep.
make that back after 2 wins. So if you're even remotely comfortable with a deck, if you feel good about a deck, this is when you want to. And it's always a few weeks after the release of a set. So it's something to look. I don't know. I'm sure most people know about it and how it works. But look out for it after the new set.
Yeah.
Going back onto cards that to look out for this set. This set, the power level of cards isn't very high. But they've made a couple of very nice cards that like will basically power up other archetypes. So there's nothing that creates a whole new archetype on its own.
Sure.
But there's very good supporting cards. So in mono white you have Thalia. That card will never go down. It'll only go up.
Yep.
Because it's played in multiple formats. It's a staple in multiple formats, and they're actually quite cheap at the moment as well. When looking at what I was talking to you about earlier is Hullbreaker Horror.
Yep.
That card is seeing a lot of play in Standard, and it's going to be seeing everyone's trying to experiment with it in Pioneer. Well, in Pioneer, I think it's going to be an absolute staple.
It's already
gonna
in
enable-
Commander.
Yeah, in Pioneer, it's enabled some decks which we'll talk about in the Pioneer.
Sure,
thing.
yeah.
And then in Modern, everyone's trying to like fit it into a control deck because you want it. It's incredibly good.
Yep.
Especially with the spells that the removal and the counter magic that is in Modern. It's very resilient to that.
Sure.
But as for the rest, I wouldn't invest too heavily into the set, unless you want specific cards for Commander, because this set has a lot of nice Commander cards.
Sure.
But as were for Standard and Pioneer and Modern, not so much.
Okay. All right. Cool.
The lands are always good to get.
Yes, absolutely. But that's good to know. So we're just quickly going to jump in, and we did have a giveaway. We're going to see we had a whole 2 people into the thing. So one of you is good. It's 50-50 chance. Either I'm a noob or Leopard Stone's winning a arena starter kit, and it's going to be I'm a noob. There we go. Congratulations, I'm a noob, or one noob, one bird noob. I'm going to go with I'm a noob. That sounds fine for me. I'm a noob. I'm not sure quite who you are. If you want to just whisper to me in Twitch so that I can get your details and we can get contact up and running so that I can make sure I get that to you. Let me know. Otherwise, if you're in any of the WhatsApp groups, just drop me a WhatsApp as to who you are and where you're at, and we can take it from there. But that's the first one down. We're going to have another one of those giveaways in a little bit. But before we get there, let's have a little chat about what do you want to do next. You want to do Pioneer or do you want to do Modern? What do you want to go for?
You go in order, so we'll go Pioneer.
Okay, cool. So we're going to go Pioneer. Where are we in Pioneer right now?
We're in quite an interesting phase of everyone's following a leader, actually.
Okay.
They're looking at Phoenix as being, everyone looks at it as being the best deck. It is by far not, and I want to encourage people, if you're wanting to buy into Pioneer or look into Pioneer, don't go with whatever the popular metagame is. So a lot of people like the playstyle of Phoenix because it's very, you feel like you're doing a lot each turn. You're playing many spells, you're playing many things. The problem with Phoenix, and I'll talk just briefly about this deck because it is the one that dominates Pioneer if anyone looks at Pioneer. And it puts up a lot of results, but it puts up results because of the amount of numbers that are playing it. Win percentage wise, it's not actually as high. It doesn't have a high conversion rate from participants to people that win. It actually gets absolutely hosed by quite a lot of decks. And if it ever comes up against Pyromancer, which is also a strong deck in the metagame, it's almost bye. For Phoenix to beat Pyromancer is almost impossible.
Okay.
Other than that, you've got your typical green decks, which are, because you get 8 elves in Pioneer. So it'll be elf on 1 into green thing on 2 into beat your face very hard as fast as possible.
Sure.
It's very nice that Burn is quite strong in Pioneer, so it's very easy to get into because it's typically one of the cheaper decks. If you're looking to get into Pioneer, Burn is or I would say probably one of the top decks, if not the top deck in Pioneer. And then you get a lot of fun that can be played throughout from there on. The format is incredibly healthy, and I wouldn't want people. The reason I start off harping about Phoenix is I don't want people to be scared of thinking that this format is dominated by this deck and this deck is so difficult to deal with. Every color has incredibly good answers to Phoenix, and they can answer Phoenix quite easily as a deck. So if you sideboard correctly, you will beat it.
Yeah.
And in general, Pioneer in a very good place, very healthy, almost to the point where it has a couple of key staples, but other than that, you can play whatever you want. Find an interaction you like, find a card you like, pet cards, build around it, and have fun.
So, I mean, in terms of, look, I hear what you're saying in terms of find a pet card, find a card that sorry, I'm looking for a pen as we speak. There is a meta game in Pioneer. I mean, we looked at it from the point of view that WotC have brought out Pioneer Challenger decks, which kind of tells you these are what we think the meta should be. I would imagine, but
no, they're not wrong. They're not wrong, but they are dated.
Sure, although I would say that the Spirits deck may be getting a lot of oomph at the moment from what's come out in Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow. Would you agree with that? Do you think so? Because there's been a lot of movement in Spirits.
I think it's a great place to start. Actually, this Pioneer conversation is the Challenger decks, because while they are dated in that they missed the metagame a little bit in terms of timeline. They have very strong decks. Spirits is an incredibly strong deck in Pioneer. And everyone likes to play, or not everyone, but like a lot of people like to play tribal. And if you're going to play tribal, the strongest tribe in Pioneer is Spirits.
Sure.
And it's very interactive, it's very fun, you're often doing stuff. So the Spirits deck in Pioneer is probably the best tribal deck and the most fun to play. And it's cool because the Challenger deck gives you a start to it. It only gives you the blue-white Spirit start, but it is still a start. So you don't get the green for company. However, newer lists of Spirits often only play blue-white because with the newer cards, you get you can get a lot of interaction, and you get a nice amount of draw from these. There's a draw card for each flyer you have as well, and including spells, including a few of these more interactive spells. You obviously cut back. You can't play Collected Company because you don't have the numbers of creatures. And it becomes more of a tempo, even more of a tempo deck where you play an early creature and you just keep it alive through interaction.
Yeah.
So Spirits is a cool place to be. The other Pioneer Challenger deck that I think is incredibly good, and it's if you want to play a top tier Pioneer deck, straight out the bat, is you get the Lotus Breach deck. That deck is almost tier 1 as is. The amount of money that you'd have to spend to build it up is very little. And the deck is incredibly good. Like very, very, very good.
Sure.
So in Pioneer, there's a bit of an issue where there's no good counter spells. All of your counter spells are basically 3 mana, and 3 mana counter spells almost unplayable. So playing a combo deck is a very good place to be. Because you're not getting you're able to get through a lot of the time with your big combo spells. And in Lotus Breach, in the Lotus Field deck, there's a lot of spells that get around that kind of thing as well, and that can put pressure. So it's a very complicated deck to play, which is cool as well because it gives you like a lot to learn.
Sure.
Like I don't think anyone picks up that deck and then within a month or so goes, I know this deck. You'll spend years playing that deck and you'll still be learning things from every game.
But that's Magic, right? I mean, that's kind of the cool thing about Magic is there are those decks that are fairly straightforward to play. For example, we just had this really cool Commander event this last weekend at Comic Warehouse, and a new guy who had not played Commander came in, said he wanted to play, and I happened to have a mono green Korvari deck, which I just thought, there's really nothing too complicated here. There are some triggers that you might want later on, but essentially you're playing green to put big green things on the board to stomp on people's faces, which is one of the ways you can go. But then again, like you say, there are the decks, particularly in the regular formats, I suppose. I don't even know what the right terminology is anymore, but in Standard, Modern, and Pioneer,
Competitive format.
Competitive formats. There we go. Competitive formats.
CEDH is a thing.
CEDH is a thing, but in the competitive format, again, you've got the decks like you say, burn is burn, and that's what it does. It's designed to burn. So it's a fairly, for not to like discount it anyway, but it's a more simple deck to play. But there are always going to be those decks and those interactions that help you not only play interesting and fun Magic, but teach you more about the game. I mean, for instance, I remember you gave me a list with the Enigmatic Incarnation, I think it was. where
that was my favorite deck.
It was such a memey sort of deck, but it was so much fun to play. Because you had to have a deck list here so that you could remember which enchantments you'd hit, which ones you hadn't, what you couldn't bring back,
But it was that in paper.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean. But and it was just such a fun deck to play. And I must be honest with you, it taught me a hell of a lot about the way Magic works and about the way the game works. I'm not the greatest player in the world. I will attest to that, and so will everybody who knows me. But at the end of the day, I love learning more about the game, and I love getting better at it at the whatever pace that I get better at it. And that deck particularly helped me get better at Magic because it taught me about how to interact with particular things. It was the first time in a game where I went in on Arena where I had to go into full control mode. Because I needed to make sure that I stacked my triggers in the right order to get the right things to happen, And so like you say in Pioneer, yes, this deck is a complicated deck, but there's nothing wrong with playing a complicated deck. It's a great way to learn the game, and it's a great way to have fun in the game. And I think when we get onto Modern just now, we'll be talking about some really complicated decks, because there are some proper complicated decks in Modern. I mean, at National Paper Series, the amount of Jeskai Ascendancy decks I saw was pretty scary. And that deck just blows my mind every time I see it.
That's Pioneer.
Is that Pioneer?
Yeah.
Okay. Then so then there was another one. Wait, there was another one. It was the
Grixis, probably the dress down.
There's a Grixis dress down list that I really, really liked. And then there was, and I'm not sure if this is Pioneer or Modern, but it was the Glimpse of Tomorrow.
That might have been Legacy.
No, it was either Modern or Pioneer. I can't remember. Anyway, that was also good. So there are these decks out there that have these complicated triggers and stuff, but don't be afraid of them. And don't be like Callum said, people, don't let other people tell you this is the deck that's going to beat everything and this is the deck you have to play. Find a deck that works for you. Find something that you have fun playing with. I mean, I see Conscript is in chat tonight, and I know exactly what he's going to say. He's going to say the only thing that's fun to play is green, which is fine because he likes green. And so he's going to go green and stomp all over everybody. And with the Uvenvold Oddity and all of these new things that are coming out, he's going to have a lot of fun with green because green is super cool right now. I mean, there's that... What's that new wolf, the Graveyard Lurker or something that you could... Cemetery Lurker. That's an awesome card, And then there's this other...
Incredibly good hit off Collected Company.
Right? And then there's this other, the Piper, that you can just put creatures on the battlefield. For it's an 8 mana value creature. I'm just going to play 3 and there it is. Poof.
And then having not cast a spell the turn, you instantly get to trigger your day-night.
Exactly, right? So then it becomes night, and then it's the big thing, and it beats up people. So there's a lot of fun going around at the moment. But there's a format we haven't spoken about just yet, and that's Modern. Now, I would assume, from my interactions with the community over the last little while, that Modern is probably South Africa's most popular format. Besides Commander, which is a non-competitive format, but which is a huge thing everywhere. I would say in terms of competitive formats, Modern is probably our biggest meta, our biggest game. So, with a very serious eye, what are we looking at in Modern? Where are we right now? And how much impact do you think there will be in Modern with the 2 new sets that have joined forces with everything else that's out there? Obviously, we're talking about the Hullbreaker, which we've spoken about already. That's definitely making an impact in different places, or will be trying to make an impact in different places. But what are we looking at overall in Modern? Where are we in Modern right now, and what can we be looking forward to? Also, keep in mind, we've got Store Champs coming up. People might be looking at what decks they want to be playing where, depending on who's hosting which events. So what are we looking at?
Modern's in probably the healthiest place it's ever been in, quite likely. What's happened? These standard sets don't impact Modern too much unless there's like a combo card that comes out, like Theros did. What impacted Modern was the MH2 situation,
Yeah.
and what that's done with regard to the Solitude and Fury coming in is it's taken all of these go big strategies of like Tron and Titan and stuff like that, and it's given an early interactable way where something can actually deal with it. It's a lot of Modern's in incredibly good position in terms of metagame health, and you can see that in this last weekend was MTG Las Vegas.
Sure.
Probably one of the biggest Modern events to have been held in recent history. The top 8 there ended up being a Hardened Scales deck, which is incredible.
It's a good card.
A Sultai Infect deck, which is incredible, and I'll talk specifically why that deck was so good. There were 2 Amulet Titan decks, featuring Khan. There was a Jan Saga deck, which we expected.
Yep.
There was a Lurrus Black-Red deck it's basically it's Black-Red control almost. It was very cool meta call, and it actually went on to win the whole event. And then one of the 4-color decks that have been very popular was in the top 8, and then finishing off with a Indomitable Creativity deck, basically tutoring into Emissary or Emrakul.
Are you currently clicking through a list, or is that a website where you've got the top 8 decks there?
So
the only reason I'm asking is if it's just a click, if you could just drop a link in chat for people if they want to go and check them out.
So I'll drop this link in chat. The thing about this Modern event was it was terribly covered. There was no coverage whatsoever, and it was weirdly enough people wanted to see it. The third most watched, I think she actually went up to top 2. The second most watched stream at one point was Mtg Lashes, and she was just there with a little webcam, kind of like showing her experience of this event. People were dying for some coverage of that event, and there was none. This is all that we get for. Someone just did a quick thing. I'm sure you'll find a report somewhere with a little bit better, but up till now there actually isn't one. Wow. And there isn't even digital deck lists. They're all paper. It's very badly covered, and it's a bit of a circus show actually.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
But Modern, I mean, that seems very weird. I mean, Modern is a hugely popular format. That
people were dying to watch it, and there was no coverage. It was pretty terrible.
Okay.
In terms of the meta and the decks that were played, though, that's the opposite case. It was actually very nice, and it's nice to see such a wide variety. And when you know that when you got something like Infect or Hardened Scales in your top 8, even Infect making the final, to win to come second was incredible.
In the final, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry, they got knocked down top 4, so they came.
Top 4.
Yeah.
Still top 4 Infect. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So the reason Infect did that is, as I spoke about, the 2 big cards that came out of, or the 4 big removal cards that came out of MH2 that every deck is just about participating in one or both.
Sure.
Is Unholy Heat as a instant speed removal, Prismatic Ending as a exile removal, and then you've got Solitude that exiles, and Fury that destroys.
Sure.
And Infect saw this. This guy who played Infect, his name is Jeff Zhao. He saw this and went, I'm going to play Infect with Phyrexian Crusader. So Infect is typically green.
Yes.
So he splashed green-blue. So he splashed black for this card, Phyrexian Crusader. And it's a 3-mana, 2/2 first strike, protection from red and protection from white. Basically, unkillable for a lot of the decks. Basically, unkillable, and with Infect. Basically,
That's
unkillable
ridiculous.
and unblockable by a lot of decks.
That's hysterical.
That carried his
That's
entire
hysterical.
form. Yeah.
That's a very clever move.
Yeah. So yeah, and it obviously went that far. Nice to see a nice broad spectrum. 4 of the top 8 decks all playing as a saga. However, the card was played in different ways in all of the decks. Everyone was expecting a lot of hammer,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of hammer, but none of it converted. I think that's due a lot to everyone expecting a lot of hammer, and that's bringing a lot of answers to it in sideboards. So a
Sure.
lot of force of vigors, and such artifact removals, explosive engineering and whatnot.
Talk to me about this Lurus deck. Black red white red control? What is this? Black red control.
Black red Lyris.
Yeah.
Yeah. The deck is it's very cool. He went on to win the event. His name is Edwin Colleran.
Okay.
Did very well. It was nice to see this kind of deck do well, and what it focused on a lot was a lot of disruption. So it played a lot of discard spells. It played like a huge amount of discard spells, and then controlling the board with Ragavan early, and then playing Torah to
That
replay
card.
the stuff that you discard.
That card is just
early
gone
Dragon
bananas.
Age talents and whatnot.
Sure. Ragavan, good grief. Who would have thought the monkey could be so popular?
A lot of people hate that card. I've got to tell you, I don't share that hate. I think there's a huge knee-jerk reaction. The card is strong. There's a huge knee-jerk reaction of, oh my god, how am I going to deal with this? He's played turn 1 Ragavan against me.
Yeah.
And while it is, yes, it's incredibly strong. And the dash effect as well, incredibly strong. I don't think it's overpowering the format. I think it's in a good place.
Sure. So going forward for Modern, are you happy with? You said you're happy with where it's at. You're happy where you think it's going at the moment.
Yeah, there's new decks coming out all the time. People are experimenting a lot. There's a lot of bold experimentation done. However, it's unfortunate, and I don't know how it happened. Modern has become incredibly expensive. It always was expensive. It has become incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
These 4-color decks are upward of $2,000. So, while if you look at something like that Infect deck, that's going to be a very cheap deck. So it doesn't need to be expensive. It's just some cases it is.
Yeah.
Solitude is going up, and it's going to be probably $100 at some point, if not more. It's up there with Ren and 6 in price, and it's only going up.
$100 for Solitude. That could be
It's going to be there soon.
I mean, if I look at this now, I'm just doing a quick jump in here just to see this. I mean, Ragavan, straight up, just a regular Ragavan is going to put you back $70 on its own. So $80 now. $80 on MTG Goldfish right now.
Yeah.
So
but Ragavan started off being that. In fact, it was over 100.
Yeah.
Where Solitude started at around 10 or 15 and has just been going up the entire time.
So just on that, you mentioned something earlier that was interesting to me off air, and this might just be something that people might want to hear about. In terms of the cost of cards, you look at the cost of cards, and cost of cards goes up due to the popularity of the card, right? So how much play is that card seeing? And so we're looking at Ragavan, obviously that sees a lot of play. We're looking at that Hellbreaker is going to start going up pretty soon because it's starting to see a lot of play and will see a lot of play. But in terms of standard cards versus modern cards and pioneer cards, I mean, we could talk about Commander, but that's a completely different thing. Commander also drives the price up on quite a few cards as well. But in terms of the competitive formats, are we going to be looking at more expensive decks? I mean, because there are a lot of cards that are going to be seeing. I mean, Consider as a common sees more play.
$4.
You know what I mean? It's like I look at that card and I'm like, wow, this card is priced at like rare because it's just that popular, you know. So are we going to be seeing more expensive cards, more expensive decks in the competitive formats?
I hope not, and I don't think so. Standard, if you look at standard previous rotation with Teferi and Nissa and all of that.
Sure.
When the band control decks were in their prime.
War of the Spark had planeswalkers everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that banned control deck that Croaky's built at one point and then was unbeatable.
Yeah.
At that time, and the decks similar to around then with Omnath, those kind of decks were sitting at around $400 or $450. Our standard decks at the moment are not even close to that.
Sure.
And it's very nice to see standard doing that. It's nice to see standard being affordable, where I think your average deck will cost about $200, probably, which is half, what it was, which is nice to see. And it's nice for people to be able to build that. This deck that I'm playing now, this black control deck, most of it's just, honestly, the whole deck is commons and uncommons. And like Blood in the Snow, which is a $1 card.
Sure.
Yeah. The lost cost a bit, but that's about it. Everything else is super cheap. And like mono white as well, fairly cheap. It's probably the top deck at the moment. Let's see, Goldfish has it at $150.
My dragons are expensive.
Dragons are expensive just because of the price of
Goldspan, yeah.
And it's unnecessary for a card to be that expensive as well. If you look at the rest of the deck, it's not going to be expensive. It's only Goldspan. A set of Goldspans at the moment is the same price as the mono white deck in its entirety.
Yeah, sure. That's why I say I look at my deck and I go like, okay, the 3 Goldspans, that's where all the money went. Everything else is just like,
yeah, exactly.
Oh dear. Okay, so that's where we're at.
Yeah, affordability, it's going in a good place with regard to standard.
Okay.
Modern, unfortunately, it's not going to change much because cards like Ren and 6 and now Solitude, and with just how the format's going with cards like Omnath, encouraging 4 colors, which means mana bases are more heavy.
Yeah.
Mana bases being more heavy on fetch lands is obviously going to be more expensive.
Yep.
Then also just having cards in the deck, like Furies are also quite expensive. Teferis are getting expensive. These are quite expensive cards to go with.
Sure.
But if you do, they're not going down in price. So it's, while being expensive, it is not a bad place to be invested in.
Sure.
Red and 6 I don't think it's ever gone down in its history.
No.
Solitude's not going to either.
Another one of those crazy cards.
Teferi is just Teferi, and that's going to be good throughout. And that's basically the cornerstone of these modern decks are these very high power level individual cards.
Sure.
That some people are playing one of, and some people are just stuffing them all into a 4-color control deck.
I'm just going to put all of them in.
Exactly. And someone just went, okay, I'm just going to play Omnath and all of these overpowered things, and then just did it. And then someone went, I'm going to take that and I'm going to combine it with Rhinos, which is Crashing Footfalls. And they did that. And now you get an 80-card Yorion deck that's both Omnath control and Cascade into Rhinos.
Cascade into Rhinos, yes, because, everybody wants that.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. And Pioneer, cost-wise?
Pioneer...
Your thoughts. I mean,
in between.
I promise I won't hold you to this. You know what I mean? I'm not going to come back in a month's time and go, you said!
Pioneer is in a very cool place cost-wise in that a lot of the staples are very cheap, and the staples are often uncommons and stuff like that.
Sure.
Whereas like Fatal Pushes, these are all just uncommons. So the decks that you look at are a lot, as I said, in Pioneer, find yourself a nice interaction that you enjoy playing, and then build a few of the staples around, add in a few of your staples, and you'll have fun. So Pioneer is almost the same price as standard, maybe a touch more just because of Shocklands.
Sure.
But even with that, it's fairly, like, if I look at, all the decks are between $200 and $300.
Okay. All right, cool. That sounds good. I think we should give people something, because they've been sticking out this terrible buffery stream the whole time. So let's try one more time. We're going to do another 4-minute giveaway for another one of these cool Arena starter kits. Don't forget that with these starter kits, you get a code, you put it into Arena, and you get all these cards in Arena anyway. So if you haven't got your Dragon's Guard Elite set, you haven't got your who's this big the summoner, this big giant. I love this guy. He was so cool when he came out. Giants in Kaldheim just blew my mind. I had so much fun with Giants. I built an Is It Giants deck and I ran over everybody. It was fantastic. It was so much fun. Said things squashing things.
Cyclone Summoner. I honestly still think Cyclone Summoner is one of the best cards in Standard.
Very cool
Answers
card.
all of these decks that are coming.
So yeah, if anybody's out there and you're watching, the only person who can't win this time or enter is I'm a noob because you just won the last one. So everybody else, raffle away. You got 4 minutes. I hope somebody enters. I hope people are still watching because the stream's been up and down in terms of kilobits. But we've recorded the whole thing. We'll stick it out on YouTube again. That's no problem. Nobody enters. We got one more to give away next week, so that's fine. But before we close off and say goodbye and do all of that stuff, I need to do a couple of housekeeping things for everybody who might still be watching. So give me 1 second to do that. So let's do this. So this Wednesday, EGG is back with Commandus, 8 o'clock right here at twitch.tv/Easy Gaming Group. We're having a rematch of last week's game because we got Escom load shedded right in the middle of the game last week, so we didn't get to finish. You didn't get to see Robert Wild, Craterhoof Behemoth, everybody to death, which is exactly what he was planning on doing, by the way. In fact, he had it in his hand and he was about to do it, and then everything died. So we're going to try that again on Wednesday. On Saturday, we're back with Roldus, where our characters have somehow miraculously managed to escape death, even though two of the fighters in the party were unconscious at the beginning of our last session on Sunday. They were saved by someone who they're not sure of whether this person is a friend or an enemy. It's kind of strange. In the words of a recent villain in movies, you won't see me coming. But anyway, we'll take it from there. Then on Monday, speaking of all things modern, Alex van der Bijl from Team Trios will be joining us on Monday night talking about his event coming up in the next little while. Very exciting. He posted some pictures today of the prize support that they put together for that event. Keep in mind that event is non-profit, so all the entry fees go towards prize support. So anything you pay into going to the event, you actually get back in prizes, which is very, very cool. So keep an eye out for that. You can find everything about that on Facebook at the moment. Just do a search for Alex van der Bijl or for Team Trios. Otherwise, go have a look at the EGG Facebook page. We've got it up there as well for them. So check that out. Also, just another shout out to everybody out there about our Patreon. Go check us out at patreon.com/Easy Gaming Group. We are there. We are pushing out a lot of content and stuff for our peeps. And also, don't forget that your entry, your patronage, gets you an entry into the grand prize where the draw will be the end of December draw, which will happen early January. And thanks to our amazing partners at Unplug Yourself, we'll once again be giving away up to 4,000 rands worth of Magic the Gathering goodies to one lucky patron who will win that prize. That's just how it goes. And then other than that, I think that's all the housekeeping I needed to do for now. Let's see if we've got anybody entered into this competition. I don't think so. I think the stream has been too bad. So I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to close that and we'll hold that off for next week. We'll have one more to give away next week then. Hopefully next week we'll have better internet. You never can tell these days. Things are very short. Although, I will give you some good news. They are installing fiber. I was going to say as we speak, but I look at it at 9 o'clock at night and I guarantee you they're not doing it right now. But they have been here and they are installing fiber on our side of the road. Because we've had fiber in the area for the last 6 years, but no one's wanted to bring it to our side of the road, which is amazing. But they're doing it now. So we'll have fiber soon, and then we won't have any of these problems anymore. It'll be fantastic. But Callum, I just want to give a big shout out to you, man. Thank you so much for coming through and sharing your thoughts on what's happening in the state of the game right now in this crazy, crazy cardboard crack that we're all so addicted to. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I see you got a big shout out from our friend Yudi down there, giving a big hello, Callum, I can see you. Happened in chat somewhere back there. But to all those of you who are watching, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that Callum's insights have given you some ideas about what you want to play or what you're looking at in the current state of Magic the Gathering, and that you take what he gave you as good advice and go look for something fun to play. I think that's pretty much what it's all about. Don't stress too much about the monies and how much things are going to cost eventually. Find something that works for you. Find something that makes you happy. Go play your game. That's really what it's all about. So, Leopardstone, you ended too late, dude. Sorry. It must be because the stream's buffering too much. People must have missed that. But anyway, we really appreciate all of you for watching. Thank you so much. We'll catch you again next time. So next Monday, we're talking to Alex right here on the Egg Pod about the team trios. Congratulations to I'm a Noob, who was our winner tonight. Check, I even put your name on it. It's yours officially. There it is. So that's yours. We'll send it off as soon as possible. And to everybody else, yeah, man, just thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep yourselves together, and we'll see you again real soon. Until next time, peace.